Yeah, you do have a lot of grace for your parents. I mean, I have wonderful parents, but you have a lot of understanding when you have your own kids. And that's not to excuse, like I know that you said that you were psychologically
No,
abused. And
no,
of
no, no,
course,
no. It doesn't excuse
no,
it
I
at
didn't want
all.
you to hear
Yeah.
me saying
Yeah.
that, but it just does give us a little bit more perspective and proper empathy
Yes.
for,
Yes.
what our parents were thinking and feeling at the time and all the complicated layers of that.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about, you said you had a breakthrough that had to do with your upbringing and your mom. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, because of my life up to, 37, I was 37 when it all kind of came crashing down. But, it was a childhood full of lots of psychological, not physical abuse, thank God, but lots of just mental, emotional, psychological abuse from a mother who, like I said, was highly abused herself prior to that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't absolve her of her actions, but it explains them and gives me more empathy for how that came to be. And also, therefore, allows me to forgive and let go because it wasn't personal. It literally wasn't. It was her trying to survive her own mental illness that she was unaware that she had and was fighting with. But I knew very, very, very early on, like 4 years old, I knew the calling on my life to go be an entertainer. And that's exactly where God brought me. But then I ended up in just a very broken industry. I could see the writing on the wall when I first jumped into it. I assumed it was probably going to be pretty inhumane. I assumed incorrectly, though, that the inhumanity was somehow like this price that everyone in the industry paid to be a part of this industry that like makes these great movies and TV shows. But the reality is that certainly since I started working in the industry, that is a miracle to make great things in Hollywood because not all, but most of the ruling class of executives and producers, and they might say that they care about making a great movie, but at the end of the day, they don't really care about making a great movie. They just care about making a movie and then using whatever marketing propaganda they can to get people to go buy tickets. And so after the lifetime of whatever my childhood was and all that stuff, then I went into Hollywood and it was very broken. And there's lots and lots of trauma that comes from that too. And it was all these things that I hadn't resolved and I didn't know I didn't resolve until it all caught up with me when I moved to Austin to 8 years ago to go and buy land to build what I believe has been my calling that God has put on my life my whole life, which was not just to go and be in the entertainment industry, but to be a leader of positive change wherever God calls me, and he happened to call me there, and to fight for a better world for as many people as I possibly can and use my platform to do that. And so when I got my first look behind the curtain and I saw how all the sausage was made in Hollywood 25 years ago, I was like, God, I don't know how to do this. This is so broken.
About that brokenness specifically, what was it that you saw that you were like, yeah, nope, don't want to be a part of that, going to do something else?
Well, again, so it's the value structure is entirely upside down.
Yeah.
They're not valuing the product and they're not valuing the people making the product. They're valuing the bottom line. So it's profit over people and not the other way around. You've got to value people over profit. If you want, genuinely, if you want to make a company in any industry that leaves a really, ROI, not just of investment, like return of impact, like to actually have a great impact on this world. And hopefully, if we're remembered at all in 10, 20, 100 years, whatever it is, that's what you're remembered for, because you didn't just take the money and run. You were like, yeah, I made a bunch of money. And also, I want to keep reinvesting it into this area, into these people, into this state, into this country, into this world. I want to do that. So, but I saw that wasn't Hollywood right out of the gate. And then on top of that, you have lots of other issues, like mixed up with all of that bad, financial valuing and structuring. You have an entirely opaque back end, meaning you could have a deal that says you make, X percent, 10% of the back end of the receipts of a movie or a TV show or whatever it is. The chances of you ever seeing that money are so slim, because what a lot of executives who might not be creative, what they're very creative at is a creative accounting. And they constantly just claim poverty. And they're like, oh no, we didn't really, there was so much money in P&A that we barely made the money back and nobody made any money. I mean, everybody, since I was 18, 19 in the business for 25 years, everybody complains about this, but nobody really did anything, because it's just this, it's its own system. It's very difficult to do anything outside of that entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
As well as, when I started in the industry, I was very blessed that, the first 10 years of my career, I got to work on 2 shows that shot in LA, but I was watching all my friends and all these other people constantly getting shipped out to all these other places, living this like oil rig life, like, saying goodbye to their wife and kids and community and saying like, see you in a few months. And the amount of marriages that suffer from that, the amount of communities, children's relationships with their parents, I'm like, there's got to be a better way. We shouldn't have to just chase incentives.
Yeah.
Because then, like I'll go do a film and there's 300 people on that crew. I want to be able to know all of them. I want to be able to know their children. Like when I was doing TV, I knew my whole cast and my whole crew. And we knew each other's families. That was a community. And I wanted to do that forever. But with films, you meet 300 people and it's like, see you never. After like 2-3 months, you're like, see you never. Maybe we'll get to work together again. Mm-hmm. That is not good for our soul. We were not built to not be in community. And community, in my opinion, is not who you necessarily live next to. There are plenty of us that live in neighborhoods that have no community because you don't know your neighbors. And therefore, by the way, you don't trust your neighbors. If you don't really know your neighbor, then that's why so many people want to helicopter their parents now or helicopter their kids nowadays. Yeah. Because you don't really know your neighbors. So it's like, I don't know, can little Billy go ride his bike until the lights come on? That's what I did, right? I don't know if I want Billy doing that because I don't know any of these people. Community is really more, in my opinion, who are you co-laboring with? Who are you co-working with? Who are you co-creating with? This is how we were built. For thousands of years of hunter-gatherer ourselves, we were bands predominantly of men off doing the hunting and women doing the nurturing and the gathering. And we had community, even when apart, we had community. And we could rely on each other and know each other and trust each other and knew each other's kids because we helped bring them up together in the world. Obviously cities are a little more complicated than groups of 150 people or whatever, a tribe would be before it would normally break off. But there's got to be a way to get back to the heart of that. And so that was one of the things that I felt God tapping me on the shoulder and being like, Zach, this is what you need. This is what you need to go and do. You're not just going to go create a better movie studio that values the artists and values the art and therefore values the audience. You're going to create a movie studio that's also a living community because our communities are broken.